Just 2 weeks to the deadline now for Chris Johnson, Pierre LeBrun, Darren Dreger, the insiders. Vegas has been a big deadline player since they came into the league because they've been a contender from day one since they came into the league. And now with news that Mark Stone is out, quote, week to week, could they be a big player again at this deadline, Dregs?
No question about that. One of Kelly McCrimmon, the general manager of the Vegas Golden Knights' strengths is his ability to juggle through adversity. And, you know, it's unfortunately become all too common for Mark Stone to miss big chunks of the second half, and that appears to be the case. So they're going to have to make that medical determination on March 8th or around the trade deadline. But know this, any cap space will be utilized by the Golden Knights. But we should make it clear. I remember having a conversation with McCrimmon at the GM meetings last year, and he talked about Mark Stone being the heart and soul. This leaves an enormous hole, but they'll do everything they can to backfill on the trade front.
Yeah, and this is a useful reminder for those watching that if your player is gone until the playoffs, then he doesn't count against the cap after that, in the sense that you can replace him on the cap at the trade deadline. And so that is a massive conversation that happens in a lot of front offices at this time of year, especially 2 weeks out from the deadline. For example, the Tampa Bay Lightning now have more clarity on Mikhail Sergachev, and as expected, they can use his $8.5 million cap hit because they don't expect him until the playoffs. And we know it's the same with New Jersey and Dougie Hamilton. He's not expected back until the playoffs. That's $9.5 million on the cap that the Devils can use. But it also goes the other way. Boston doesn't have Hampus Lindholm right now. He's week to week, but I'm told that that is not longish term, so that he will be back before the end of the regular season. Victor Arvidsson, who's back on injured reserve, it's not expected to be that long, so the Kings can't use his cap hit. So it cuts both ways, and certainly at this time of year, it's one of the most important conversations that are happening around front offices every night as players go down, is how long is he out and how does it affect the deadline?
And then you have the case of Gabriel Landeskog in Colorado, who we haven't seen basically since they won the Stanley Cup. And perhaps he could be their big addition around the deadline. Is he close to returning, CJ?
I certainly wouldn't sound like he's close, but I think that one thing rival teams have taken note of is that Gabriel Landeskog has become a regular participation in skates in Denver. And look, he's working his way back from a significant knee surgery last May. This has been a really long-term process. As you mentioned, he hasn't played actually since the night they won the Cup in Tampa back in 2022, but it hasn't been ruled out. I would say that Landeskog will not be back. The Avalanche are obviously going to do right by him. They have a long-term investment in this player, but it's certainly something to keep an eye on here as we get into the playoffs and Colorado looks at bolstering its lineup.
Philly is one of a number of fascinating deadline teams, Dregs. I don't think they expected necessarily to be in a playoff position, third in the Metro, entering play tonight. And so you have pieces that they could move out or could keep.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time talking about the potential of available defensemen in Philadelphia and in Calgary, haven't we? And most of the talk around the Philadelphia Flyers is on right shot defenseman Sean Walker, but Nick Seeler has been out there from the get-go as well. However, management will confirm in Philadelphia, as will agent Pat Brisson, that they have engaged in contract extension discussions. So now what GM Danny Briere has to figure out is, okay, what's the cost of that contract look like for a tough-as-nails defensive defenseman, who they love in Philadelphia, by the way, versus what they might get in return on the trade front. So to be determined, but I wouldn't be surprised if Seeler signs that extension and stays with the Flyers.
And we were chatting the other night about this jam-up that's happening right now, which I don't mind whatsoever, because of teams like Philly and Washington, who enter play 6 points out of a playoff spot, but not ready to declare themselves a seller, Pierre?
That's right, James. Not yet. They want to give this team every chance it has. In some ways, the Caps have kind of surprised in a way to still be in the race. They started, last year moving some parts, and they're in transition, not allowed to they use rebuild, of course, with Alex Ovechkin there. But if they get closer to March 8th and they're not close enough in the race, they will start listening on guys like Anthony Mantha, Max Pacioretty, and Joel Edmondson. All three are pending UFAs. Those are the key guys that they could trade. Edmondson already is at half price from the Montreal trade last year. If they cut him in half again, his salary that is, that's a $900,000 cap hit only for Joel Edmondson, a Stanley Cup winner. Could be of interest.
And finally, CJ, Winnipeg's having a terrific season, but still trying to boost her ticket sales, and the commissioner coming to town?
Yeah, the league's head office obviously monitoring this situation quite closely. The Jets have seen a 30% actually above a 30% drop in the last 3 years in their season ticket base. And Gary Bettman will be in Winnipeg on Tuesday. He'll meet with some of the team's important corporate sponsors. I think he'll have a little chat in front of the fans that wish to see that. And obviously there's a big push on from the Jets to improve those season ticket numbers, building off the success on the ice this year heading into next season.
Of course, the best way to bolster it would be a long playoff run, which they really haven't had since 2018. Insider trading.